Good evening, and welcome to another Poetry After Dark. I am your host, Mads Mama Bear, and tonight we are going to be discussing poetry from the holidays. Of course, this time of year, Christmas is the most recognized, but I also understand that there are others. Happy Hanukkah to the Jewish faith, Cool Yule to all the pagans, and as I honestly, admittedly, don't know all of the holidays, but a general happy festival of lights, because I know that's basically what this time of year is. It's uh, a return of bringing the light back. Is essentially what most of the holidays this time of year is really about. Lighting up the world to help us get through the dark. Good evening, Bone. Wonderful. And tonight, for anyone who wants to follow along, in the description there is the link for the Poetry Foundation. And under the section, Classic Poems and Lyrics, from Major Henry Livingston, Jr., Account of a Visit from St. Nicholas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of new-fallen snow gave lustre of midday to the objects below, when what to my wondering eye should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his courses they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all, as dry leaves before the wild hurricanes fly, when they meet with an obstacle and mount to the sky. So up to the housetop courses they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys was flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry! His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up in a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprung to his sleigh, to his team he gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim ere he drove out of sight, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Kwanzaa and Festivus too, yes, Bone. remember, hit that like button, share out the stream. And if you're new here, please feel free to hit the subscribe button, as I've got some good stuff coming down the works. And every Sunday night is another Poetry After Dark. I'm going to go with Christmas Trees by Robert Frost for our next one. A Christmas Circular Letter. The city had withdrawn into itself, and left at last the country to the country. When between the whirls of snow not come to lie, and whirls of foliage not laid there drove, a stranger to our yard, who looked the city, yet did in country fashion, in that there he sat and waited till he drew us out, a buttoning coats, to ask him who he was. He proved to be the city come again, to look for something it had left behind, and could not do without, and keep its Christmas. He asked if I would sell my Christmas trees, my woods, the young fir balsams, like a place where the houses are all churches and have spires. I hadn't thought of them as Christmas trees. I doubt if I was tempted for a moment to sell them off their feet in cars, and leave the slope behind the house all bare, where the sun shines now no warmer than the moon. But I'd hate to have them know if I was. Yet more I'd hate to hold my trees except as others hold theirs, or refuse for them. Beyond the time of profitable growth, the trial by market everything must come to. I dallied so much with the thought of selling, then whether from mistaken courtesy and fear of seeming short of speech, or whether from hope of hearing good of what was mine, I said, there aren't enough to be worth while. I could soon tell you how many they would cut. You let me look them over. You could look, but don't expect I'm going to let you have them. Pasture, they spring in, some in clumps too close, that lop each other's boughs, not a few, quite solitary, having equal boughs. All round and round the ladder he nodded, yes, to, or paused to say beneath some lovelier one. With a buyer's moderation, that would do. I thought so too, but there wasn't there to say so. We climbed the pasture on the south, crossed over. He came down on the north. He said 1,000. 1,000 Christmas trees. At what a piece? He felt some need of softening that to me. 1,000 trees will come to $30. Then I was certain I had never meant to let him have them, never show surprise. But $30 seemed so small beside the extent of the pasture I should strip 3 cents. For that was all they figured out apiece. 3 cents, so small beside the dollar friends I should be writing to within the hour, would pay in cities for good trees like those. Regular, festy trees, whole Sunday schools, could hang on enough to pick off 1,000 Christmas trees I didn't know I had, worth 3 cents more to give away than sell, as may be shown by simple calculation. Too bad I couldn't say one in a letter. I can't help wishing I could send you one, and wishing herewith a Merry Christmas. Good evening, Maki. Every one of us has our own family traditions, things that we look forward to every year. And I know for many of us it's going to be hard because for a lot of us, we can't go and get together with the family that we so often we do every year, that we see every year. Some of us have to travel far too long for it. The family is always there in the heart. Our next selection, The Three Kings, by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. 3 kings came riding from far away, Melchior and Gaspar and Balthazar. 3 wise men out of the east were they, and they traveled by night, and they slept by day. For their guide was a beautiful, wonderful star. The star was so beautiful, large, and clear, that all the other stars of the sky became a white mist in the atmosphere. And by this they knew that the coming was near of the prince foretold in the prophecy. 3 caskets they bore on their saddle bows, 3 caskets of gold with golden keys. Their robes were of crimson silk with rows of bells and pomegranates and furbelows, their turbans like blossoming almond trees. And so the 3 kings rode into the west, through the dusk of the night, over hill and dell. And sometimes they nodded, with beard on breast, and sometimes talked, as they paused to rest. With the people they met at some wayside well. Of the child that is born, said Balthazar, good people, I pray you, tell us the news. For we in the east have seen his star, and have ridden fast, and have ridden far, to find and worship the King of the Jews. And the people answered, you ask in vain. We know of no king but Herod the Great. They thought the wise men were insane, as they spurred their horses across the plain, like riders in haste, who cannot wait. And when they came to Jerusalem, Herod the Great, who had heard this thing, sent for the wise men and questioned them, and said, go down unto Bethlehem, and bring me tidings of this new king. So they rode away, and the star stood still, the only one in the gray of the morn. Yes, it stopped. It stood still of its own free will, right over Bethlehem on the hill, the city of David, where Christ was born. And the 3 kings rode through the gate and the guard, through the silent street, till their horses turned, and neighed as they entered the great inn yard. But the windows were closed, and the doors were barred, and only a light in the stable burned. And cradled there in the scented hay, in the air made sweet by breath of kine, the little child in the manger lay. Of that child would be the king one day, of a kingdom not human but divine. His mother, Mary of Nazareth, sat watching beside his place of rest, watching the even flow of his breath. For the joy of life and the terror of death were mingled together in her breast. They lay in their offerings at his feet. Gold was their tribute to a king. The frankincense, with its odor sweet, was for the priest, the parcelet, the myrrh, for the body's burying. And the mother wondered and bowed her head, and sat as still as statue of stone. Her heart was troubled, yet comforted, remembering what the angel had said of an endless reign and of David's throne. When the kings rode out of the city gate, the clatter of hoofs in proud array, they went not back to Herod the Great, for they knew his malice and feared his hate, and returned to their homes by another way. Hello, 24/7. How are you tonight, Poppy? And I see we've got 5 people hanging out with us out with me with us in the chat tonight. And I'm hoping there'll also be people catching this on the replay, maybe even playing it on Christmas, either Christmas Eve, Christmas morning, at any point. But either way, thank you for listening. Remember to hit that like button. Give it a share. This is the kind of thing people need to hear this time of year. By Alfred Lord Tennyson. In memoriam, A.H.H. Obit. You have to... I can't translate that off the top of my head. Ring out wild bells to the wild sky, the flying cloud, the frosty light. The year is dying in the night. Ring out wild bells and let him die. Ring out the old, ring in the new. Ring happy bells across the snow. The year is going, let him go. Ring out the false, ring in the true. Ring out the grief that saps the mind. For those that hear we see no more. Ring out the feud of rich and poor. Ring in the red dress to all mankind. Ring out a slowly dying cause and ancient forms of party strife. Ring in the nobler modes of life with sweeter manners, pure laws. Ring out the want, the care, the sin, the faithless coldness of the times. Ring out my mournful rhymes, but ring the fuller minstrel in. Ring out false pride in place and blood, the civic slander and the spite. Ring in the love of truth and right. Ring in the common love of good. Ring out old shapes of foul disease. Ring out the narrowing lust of gold. Ring out the 1,000 wars of old. Ring in 1,000 years of peace. Ring in the valiant man and free, the larger heart, the kindlier hand. Ring out the darkness of the land. Ring in the Christ that is to be. By E. E. Cummings. Little tree. Little tree, little silent Christmas tree. You are so little, you are more like a flower. Who found you in the green forest? And were you very, so very sorry to come away? See, I will comfort you, because you smell so sweetly. I will kiss your cool bark and hug you safe and tight, just as your mother would. Only don't be afraid. Look at the spangles that sleep all year in a dark box, dreaming of being taken out and allowed to shine, the balls, the chains, red and gold, the fluffy threads. Put up your little arms, and I'll give them all to you to hold. Every finger shall have its ring, and there won't be a single place dark or unhappy. When you're quite dressed, you'll stand in the window for everyone to see, and how they'll stare. Oh, but you'll be very proud. And my little sister and I will take hands, looking up at our beautiful tree. We'll dance and sing, Noel, Noel. Evening, Kashyyyk Queen. How you doing tonight, Amber? And hello there, Sakarat. I see now people are starting to roll in, and please hit that like button. See if we can get other people in here as well. by Christina Rossetti. In the bleak midwinter. In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Earth stood as hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long ago. Our God, heaven cannot hold him, nor earth sustain. Heaven and earth shall flee away when he comes to reign. In the bleak midwinter, a stable place sufficed, the Lord God Almighty, Jesus Christ. Enough for him who cherubim to worship night and day, breast full of milk and a manger of hay. Enough for him whom angels fall before, the ox and ass and camel which adore. Angels and archangels may have gathered there, cherubim and seraphim thronged the air. But his mother only in her maiden bliss worshipped the beloved with a kiss. What can I give him as poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet what can I give him? Give my heart. Happy to hear you're doing well. Yeah, feel free to share it out. Our next selection is The Magi by William Butler Yeats. Now, as at all times I can see in the mind's eye, in their stiff painted clothes, the pale, unsatisfied ones appear and disappear in the blue depths of the sky, with all their ancient faces like rain-beaten stones, and all their helms of silver hovering side by side, and all their eyes still fixed, hoping to find once more, being by cavalry's turbulence unsatisfied, the uncontrollable mystery on the bestial floor. I have noticed in talking with friends, everybody has that one thing that is undeniably Christmas for them. That one thing that they need to see, usually on the table, either Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. For me, there was two things. Ever since I was little, my grandparents always insisted on treating all of the grandkids the same. Now, being I was the youngest of quite a large amount of grandchildren, that was not easy. But my grandfather always made sure every year everyone got a box of toffee because he knew it was my favorite. And still to this year, all these many, many years later, it still warms my heart. And for me, it's not really Christmas if I don't have it. But the other thing, the family tradition, being is that I am half Dutch, my father is from the Netherlands. What is as common to them as chicken wings to us is a thing called croquettes or bitterball. Same idea, different shapes. And every Christmas Eve, coming up to Christmas, every year my father would cook up a roast somewhere around the middle of November, mid-December, somewhere around there. Usually mid-December, what am I thinking? and he would proceed to turn the leftovers into croquettes, which is, if you have not had the chance of, it is a beautiful, you know, little round ball of meat with nice sauce. It is absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, I never quite got the hang of making my father's recipe, and it has been quite a while since I've been willing to attempt it. But every year he would make it up. One of us, usually yours truly, would sit there and help him roll up each little individual ball and carefully bread them, inspecting for cracks. Because once they were cooked, they were quite, liquidy. Somewhere around the consistency of a very thick gravy or stew. So you wanted to make sure there was no cracks. Then we'd carefully pack them up and put them in the freezer. After, of course, testing a couple for science, But then Christmas Eve would come and we'd travel all the way out to my aunt's place, where he would proceed to put on a big pot of oil and cook up an always mind-boggling amount of these little meat-filled balls. And one of my cousins would always stand there right at the door of the kitchen, eagerly awaiting the next fresh batch. And my father would always look at me and say, "Keep him away from the door. Now, that way other people get some too." Those are the kind of stories I try to focus on this year. And I think other people should as well. Those ones that bring a smile to your face regardless. I know it's easy to feel isolated this time of year, especially with things going on as they are. But we are connected in a way we never really were before. We may not have somebody by our side, but thanks to the internet, we have people close by who are always caring, willing to lend out a digital ear. Sorry for going off on my little tangent. To Mrs. K on sending me an English Christmas plum cake at Paris by Helen Maria Williams. What crowding thoughts around me wake, what marvels in a Christmas cake. Ah, say what strange enchantment dwells enclosed within its odorous cells. There is no small magician bound, encrusted in its snowy round. For magic surely lurks in this, a cake that tells of vanished bliss. A cake that conjures up to view the early scenes when life was new. When memory knew no sorrows past, and hoped believed in joys that last. Mysterious cake whose folds contain life's calendars of bliss and pain, that speaks of friends forever fled, and wakes the tears I love to shed. Of oft shall I breathe her cherished name, from whose fair hand the offering came. For she recalls the artless smile of nymphs that deck my native isle, of beauty that we love to trace, allied with tender, modest grace. Of those who, while abroad they roam, retain each charm that gladdens home, and whose dear friendship can impart A Christmas banquet for the heart. Moving on to contemporary poems, as many of these we have heard, though that last one actually was quite nice. Let's go with The Christmas Letter by John N. Morris. Hello, Ancient One. From February 1977. This published poem. The Christmas Letter, John N. Morris. Wherever you are when you receive this letter, I write to say we are still ourselves, in the same place, and I hope you are the same. The dead have died, as you know, and will never get better. And the children are boys and girls of several ages and names. So in closing, I send you our love, and hope to hear from you soon. There is never a time like the present. It lasts forever, wherever you are, as I ever remain. Another published poem. This one by Susan Elizabeth Howe. Published December 2002. Your luck is about to change. A fortune cookie. Omnious, inscrutable Chinese news to get just before Christmas, considering my reasonable health. Marriage as spicy as Mugu Gai Pan. Career running like a not-too-old Chevrolet. Not bad considering what can go wrong. The bony finger of Uncle Sam might point out my husband, my own National Guard, and set him in Afghanistan. My boss could take a personal interest. The pain in my left knee could spread to my right. Still, as the old year tips into the new, I insist on the infant hope going and kicking, his legs in the air. I won't give in to the dark, to the sub-zero weather, the fog, or even the neighbor's nativity. Their 4-year-old has arranged his whole legion of dinosaurs, so they too worship the child, joining the cow and sheep. Or else ultimate mortals they've come to eat, ox and camel, Mary and Joseph, and savor the newborn babe. I can actually see that. Kids so often do things that are just make no sense to us sometimes. That is the beauty of seeing eyes through the life of a child, isn't it? They give us that perspective on the world that we're often too in our own ruts. Where the Stars Are Pristine by Alice Fulton. Everyone's spending Christmas Eve adrift in the corporal skirmish, mixing up the dark with the lights, fending with elbows and dirty looks. Wet wool and down crowd the air. But where are the stars, pristine as great ideas? Behind clouds in the heavens saturate with luminous dust, shuttles wearing halos of earth dirt, light pollution from jets fired to keep things on course. Boys rick-rack a ball off the floor, the ceiling past the table, tree bubbling away with giveaway ornaments from Burger King, and the lights that manage an occasional lackadaisical flash. Showstoppers, everyone. Looks in every time, keeps lurking to make sure it happened. The double front loaders are going like abstract TVs. And the program is important, all about boggling sullied lives we'd like to hide. But this is no place to do so, where known and unknown perverts come to pirate underpants and the innocent clutch their cheer and shout. The rules posted, only the toughest habiliments, the superego of raiment can take such agitation, and only the poor are invited to endure the sneezy powers and clean resentment. Imagine a museum installation, 200 hypnotic washers stuffed with somersaulting cloth. Critics could rise to the challenge, their statements settling like coats of gold and silver, chainmail over each machine. These speed queen pieces thrust ahead of art for art's sake to confront us with a realism of social political magnitude. The vortex-like movement of pattern and color and texture infuses these works with an abundance of unconscious bliss. The soft forms circulate with vigor across the screens. The viewer is not privy to the cause of dirt, though. One is a witness to the dirt's evolutions. The point is, we are not impeccable. Everyone would be happy to know that. And so we're forced to scoop and pour a fine white empathy over the hairy flannels, snaggy nylons, the glass front that gives forth this light industry, the silly tree and jingles about blue and white Christmases, chestnut sleigh bells, just as snow settles on every unsequestered thing. From blistered gumball machines, clumsy bumper, crepuscular theaters with sticky floor, to ramshackle mansions choked with smiling china animals, where lights shake itself out from TVs, and old women as frail as walking sticks sweep their steps at 8 a.m. Just as snow makes the less than impeccable classical stroking the merely drab or passing quickly or slowly, so we can count only on its leaving, teaching liquidity to what seems solid. I see we still have 5 people in the chat. Before Christmas by Landis Everson. Almost. The first reindeer shipped north by boxcar from Lapland, but a toy model got there first. A dwarf invented reindeer on its own. He was Santa's favorite. He hadn't known they already existed. This discouraged dwarf was close to taking his life, but Santa showed up encircled by snow. He said, "I will use the real reindeer for my sled, always in yoke, to your original invention." That night the gears that turned the pole stopped and begun to turn the other way. So it be. My love is a toy model waiting for a reindeer to carry me. I know you're here, Poppy. I appreciate it. I think I'll read 1 or 2 more and then call it a night. Christmas Prelude by Lisa Jarnot. Oh, little fleas of speckled light, all dancing like a satellite. Oh, belly green trees, shaded veil. Oh, shiny bobcat winter trail. Amoebic rampage, squamous cock, a Chinese hairpiece, burly sock. A grilled banana smashes gates, and mingled badgers venerate. The asses of winter trees rock on fat asses as you please. Be jumpy or unhinged, with joy enlightened, fry cakes, Steten hoy. Yes, I've noticed that. Strangely enough, I'm actually curious if they're okay. As I'm sure probably those of you in the chat are probably laughing at me now. But it's part of my routine, I guess. I've gotten so used to seeing at least one downvote that when it's missing, I wonder why. Call me an odd duck, if you will. But even seeing the downvotes make me happy, as I know there's at least somebody who has got me on their mind. And whether you think good of me or think ill, I still hope you have a wonderful day. And I wish well. Before Christmas by Landis Everson. Almost the first reindeer. Oop. Nope, I read this one. My bad. Kind of wish I could highlight these. Okay. By Oana Carlson. From December 1993, a week before Christmas. The night is so beautiful and so frightening. I hesitate before I follow the dog further up into the white road, where snow doesn't disguise the ice. Stars have appeared in the east, and wise men at intersections sweep rumors up with broken glass. People hurt each other in ways kept out of the papers, but known to those who minister to others in unnaturally bright rooms, and have the knowledge the butcher has when he turns from cutting meat and looks you in the eye. Ahead of me, in the dimness, I see forming what is possibly a shape. At first, it's just a fog. Material as I fear, then I realized it's what death will be like. A shape that. My, that was a cheery one. Let's not end it on that. By Devin Johnson. The Golden Hind. On Christmas Day, Kathleen and I propel a raft with plastic spoons through the hissing fur of surf, stirring as we go. An Alka-Seltzer sun, we passed Bolinas Stinson School, the firehouse in Smiley's Drive, distinguished geodesic domes along the Mesa Road, where Cream Saronian lives. With a telescope, my sister spies erstwhile chemists of Argonne, who left his post to polish glass. As penance, he engraves a glyph of hydrogen on the blank face of every cliff from Monterey to Inverness. Beside us, cormorants describe the chop and grunts, then plunge through 30 feet of grease. I tried to hold my breath as long as I can cheat or fail. As evening comes, we pass the final spite of land. Once more around the horn, and then we'll make it for home. You know what? There was one. Though I will remind anyone, I do have a reading of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss that I did last year. Let me pull up one. that my father told me years ago. Let's leave this on a long but good note. As soon as I find the right... I don't want an excerpt, I want the actual thing. Bear with me a second. As I've mentioned quite often before, my father quite often listened to CBC radio every Sunday morning. And his favorite was not only the music, that's truth, not quite that different from what I'm playing right now, to also the Vinyl Cafe. And I am trying to see if I've got it kicking around to the particular one I'm looking for. If not, I will have to post it onto my Twitter. Transcript, that's what I'm looking for. And if you are not familiar with the Vinyl Cafe, you really do need to check it out. It is, yes, such an iconic Canadian thing at this point. It's iconic as beaver tails and poutine. But in this one, the Vinyl Cafe is a story of this couple, Dave and Morley. And we all know somebody like Dave, who, as much as he tries, always seems to come across multiple obstacles, and things always wind up going quite left of center. And one of my favorites, which I am having difficulty finding in readable form, is Dave Cooks the Turkey. I'm not even bothering with that one. Which, unfortunately, I will have to probably put... because I wanted to leave this on a good line, on a good... Well, if they really wanted to be generous, the TipJar is up there. Just saying. But that bums me out a little. But I will... Let me try that. Unfortunately, the one who became so iconically connected with the Vinyl Cafe stories, Stuart McLean, he passed away some years back. But this is, for me, the iconic Christmas story, or at least from them. And I highly encourage you all to go over and watch it. In fact, I will drop it also in the description as I speak right now. Let me just add that in. Dave. There we go. And as much as I wanted to leave this on a higher note, it seems I'm having difficulty finding one. Let's try December 26th by Ken Nesbitt. A BB gun, a model plane, a basketball, electric train, a bicycle, a cowboy hat, a comic book, a baseball bat, a deck of cards, a science kit, a racing car, a catcher's mitt. So that's my list of everything that Santa Claus forgot to bring. And this one feels good. Whether it's positive or not, I'm unsure. But Taking Down the Tree by Jane Kenyon. Give me some light, cries Hamlet's uncle midway through the murder of Gonzago. Light, light, cry scattering courtesans here as in Denmark. It's as dark as 4, and even the moon shines with only half a heart. The ornaments go down into the box. The silver spaniel, my darling on its collar, from mother's childhood in Illinois. The balsa jumping jack, my brother and I fought over, pulling limb from limb. Mother drew it together again with thread, while I watched, feeling depraved at the age of 10. With something more than caution, I handle them, and the lights, with their tin star-shaped reflectors, brought along from house to house, their pasteboard toy suitcases, increasingly flimsy. Tick, tick, the desiccated needles dropped. By supper time, all that remains is the scent of balsam fir. If it's darkness we're having, let it be extravagant. And with that, yeah. Thankfully, my tree is just easy to bag up. I don't even have to take the ornaments off of it. Try that again. Hope I could spell. And with that, I shall bid you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a wonderful Kwanzaa, and, of course, a cool Yule. No matter which day you celebrate, I hope it is to good for you. And you have people to reach out to, whether in person or online. Remember, there are always people out there who are eager to hear from you. So, if you're catching this on the replay, drop down in the comments section. Let me know what the thing that is iconic for your Christmas is, or your holiday celebration. And I hope you all have a wonderful and glorious holiday season. Just adding this in. This has been Poetry After Dark. It is not working for me. Good night, everyone.